Hello, audience, and welcome back to the Human Paradox Podcast. I'm your co-host, Aaron, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ben. And the topic for today's episode, I have no idea. I have a very vague understanding of what we're going to be talking about, but earlier today, Ben texted me saying, hey, we should record an episode. And I said, all right, about what? And he said, because I want to rant about wrestling. And that's it. That's all that I know about this episode. So he might have a flow chart for how this is going to go. But as far as this goes, I'm just along for the ride like you guys, and I'll be giving my thoughts on his opinions, I suppose. So without further ado, what are we talking about today, man?
All right, so I just want to warn any sensitive ears, there will probably be a lot of cursing in this episode.
Not necessarily from me, but from him.
I try not to.
When have we ever tried not to curse?
I mean, I try not to curse, but
I never censor anything I say.
Yeah, but I'm going to be very upset for a lot of this.
Okay, so you're upset right now, or was this like an earlier today
I was very upset on Friday.
And it's
let's take this back, okay?
All right.
So if anybody listened to our WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 review, we both gave WWE very high praise because, I mean, honestly, I think this was the best WrestleMania since 31. It might even be better than 31.
Okay.
And if you look online at a lot of the WrestleMania reviews, they all say pretty much the same thing as, oh, WrestleMania was great, but WWE is definitely going to let the ball drop.
Mm-hmm.
It's only in WWE's hands to fail at this now. And my general opinion was there's no way they could fail because Roman's on top as the undisputed champion. Cody Rhodes is back. Bianca Belair is now the face of the women's division, which is fine.
Okay.
Tag team division seems to be on the up and up, like with what's going to happen tonight on Raw, with the tag team unification match.
Yeah, we are.
If that actually happens,
we're recording this on April 11th, 2022.
Yeah, but I was in a really good mood, and then we watched Raw, and Cody Rhodes cut a very impassionate promo.
Yes.
And I thought it was great, and it was different than what you normally see on WWE programming. If you want to say it was scripted, I don't necessarily think it was scripted. It felt like a Cody Rhodes promo. It definitely felt like it was rehearsed, but I mean, that's not what I got from the promo. He for once, I'm not going to say he for once, but for once on WWE programming, they actually made the title seem important.
Yeah.
They basically summed up his entire return on, he came back to win the world title because his dad never won it. And I thought that was really, really interesting storytelling. And from that moment, I was like, he needs to be the guy that needs to dethrone Roman Reigns. And then the show continued on, and we got WrestleMania rematches. The night after WrestleMania, we got a just really awkward women's tag team contenders match.
Yeah, against the champions.
Against the champions, with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan facing Banks and Naomi. And they lost, which means they aren't the number one contenders, but then they became the number one contenders anyway. So then what was the point of doing the match in the first place? That kind of shit. That was when I first started to be like, oh no, this isn't going to be very good.
Yeah.
And then I don't even remember the rest of the show because it was that bad. The show for Raw, that the big push that I do remember is Edge's stable coming out. I think this is my prediction, and this is going out before we're recording this before Raw tonight. I think that Liv Morgan is going to fail, or she's either going to be the one that gets pinned or makes a mistake in their match tonight, and then Rhea Ripley's going to beat the shit out of her and then join Edge's faction. That's what I think is going to happen, and I think that would be awesome.
Okay.
That's just me saying that. But Raw was pretty meh.
I mean, when you look at it, the only if you view wrestling like you would a TV show, right? Which I suppose that you could do. There wasn't really much plot progression, right? The only plot that was progressed was we finally got to see Ezekiel and Veer, right? That was the big one, and Cody got introduced. But aside from that, I mean, Ezekiel was a joke, right? Veer was played off kind of like a joke too. Cody was the only really big story progression, right? Not much progress was made with Edge. They just kind of said, "Hey, what's up? We're here," but we already saw that at Mania. And then with Roman, he just said, "Watch SmackDown."
Let me continue on with my WWE side of things. So obviously, the weekly progression of television goes Raw, NXT, AEW, then Thursdays off, then SmackDown.
Yeah.
So normally in the middle of the week, you get a little bit of a high point because NXT is normally not too bad. It's actually normally pretty good. Mm-hmm. And AEW is normally very, very good. SmackDown is the worst show in wrestling right now. I don't even think that's a question at this point.
I mean, like, are you counting Impact or anything like that, or?
I don't watch Impact, so I feel like Impact would be better than SmackDown. There's no way in hell that anything could be worse than SmackDown. But if anybody listened to my top 10 wrestling matches of all time, you'll notice that there's a lot of NXT matches on there. And that's because I am a diehard NXT fan. I've been watching NXT for a long time. I'm actually starting to get Aaron into watching some of the older NXT things because he never really saw Bobby Roode in his prime in NXT. He never really saw never really saw the DIY stuff until I showed it to him.
For whatever reason, growing up, I just never watched NXT, and maybe that's just because I wasn't as much a hardcore fan now. Back then, I was a lot more casual, whereas now I take it more seriously. But NXT is dead now, so
yeah. But this is the general theme for the week, and I'll get to it a little bit more when I get to the SmackDown portion. But right before WrestleMania Saturday at 1:00, NXT had Stand and Deliver, which is like their WrestleMania pay-per-view. And on that show, Toxic Attraction lost the tag team titles, and Braun Breaker lost to Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. I thought, oh, okay, they're going to continue the storyline. And then what happens? On Raw, Braun Breaker beats Dolph Ziggler to silence because nobody knows who the hell he is, and nobody on the main roster, none of like the mainstream main roster fans like Dolph Ziggler anyway.
Yeah.
Like the hardcore fans like Dolph Ziggler. So they didn't care. And then the next night on NXT, Toxic Attraction got the tag team titles back. So that was the first big eye opener to me. That's like, oh well, whatever programming you watch, it really doesn't matter because I like you would think with NXT 2.0 being a thing and the main roster they're both being controlled by Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon. You would think that they're in the same universe, like they exist. Like main roster stars can come down to NXT and be themselves. But God forbid an NXT talent comes up to the main roster and is themselves.
So let me ask
you
this.
Braun Breaker. So Braun Breaker on NXT was a badass, and then he comes up to the main roster and he comes out and he's smiling all over the place. I hate it.
He was smiling a lot,
and it was cringe and was terrible. Okay, and that's not the worst of it. Then we get to SmackDown, and SmackDown last week was probably the most offensive wrestling show I've ever watched in my entire life.
I did not watch it with Ben. I was sick this weekend, but yeah, he was texting me after it was over how much he hated it.
So the first segment was a really, really cringe Ronda Rousey segment where she can't, and I hate saying this because Ronda Rousey can indeed cut a promo. She cannot cut a scripted promo for the life of her. They need to turn this woman heel, and they need to do it now because she is so ungenuine. Is that a word? Disingenuous. She is so disingenuous with how she speaks. She's monotone. She does not come off as sincere that she actually cares about winning the title. She's 100% there for the money. She doesn't give a fuck about the fans.
Yeah.
And she can't read lines to save her life. When she was heel and she was the Raw Women's Champion, she straight up she was dropping banger promos every single week because she did not give a shit.
So, I know where you're going with all this, right? But just for the people who might be feeling a little lost with all these points, right? If you could summarize what this is all leading to in like a sentence, right? What is the grand theme around this rant that you're having tonight? Is it that...
Oh, no, I said, so there were a lot of NXT call-ups on SmackDown, and Every single one of these people that was called up from NXT was tweaked in some way or another.
Yeah.
Raquel Gonzalez, one of the best aspects of the NXT Women's Division, got called up, and they changed her name to Raquel Rodriguez. I don't know why that was necessary at all. On NXT, they split up the best tag team in... They split up the best tag team that WWE has, which is Imperium, and they called up Marcel Bartel and Walter, and they changed Marcel's name to Ludwig something.
Ludwig something.
Ludwig something. I'm like, why do these things need to happen? They're basically, and there were reports like they changed his name at the last minute because his name was going to be something else, just like Gunther Stark was going to be his Walter's name.
Yeah.
Like they wanted to straight up name them after Nazis.
Really? So that was intentional.
That was intentional. They were trying to name them after Nazis.
Given
and then on top of that, you got Pat McAfee calling Butch Pete Dunne on commentary accidentally because for those of you who don't know, before Pat McAfee was the SmackDown announcer, he was in NXT and he was in a faction with Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland. So the fact that they were in a War Games match together, they basically ran NXT, and the fact that Pat McAfee has to sit on commentary and pretend that this guy, who he was a tag team partner with, his name is Butch, is so offensive to me. But that's not the grand theme here. The grand theme here is it doesn't matter what you watch. WWE's programming doesn't mean anything. NXT, why bother watching it? There's no reason to watch it because if you get hooked on superstars down there, they're just going to change them when they get to the main roster.
That's right, and I believe that I'm the one that told... Yeah, I brought that point up to you on Friday, right? I asked you the question, what is the point of watching NXT... Or what is the point of using NXT as a developmental ground if you're going to develop a superstar there only to change them on the main roster? Like, it makes no sense. It's like building a house just to tear it down and then build it from scratch all over again someplace else. NXT is not even a developmental brand, right? That was my point. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so it is used more as a developmental brand now. The last 2-3 years, it was basically the third brand, which you can go back and forth on if that's the right thing or not. I personally thought it was the best. I'll go on record here till the day I die. It doesn't matter how good AEW gets, or New Japan, anything. NXT from 2018, 2019. Even before that, 2015 to 2019, 2020, was the single best wrestling promotion on the planet that has ever been created. It was that good. Constant 5-star matches coming out. Great storylines. People actually... You know how you hear all these stories about guys flocking to AEW?
Yeah. Well, it's not stories. It's happening.
Yeah. Well, yeah, guys like Keith Lee, all the independent guys, they're flocking to AEW in droves.
Yeah.
It used to be like that, but for NXT. People would come when... It justified WWE's existence for years. And then Vince killed it. And it just pisses me off, and it's so offensive to me. I read an article today that said the main reason that Walter wasn't called up to the main roster beforehand is because Vince wants thin wrestlers on the main roster.
I read that, yeah. He wants them to be skinnier.
That is...
when I was reading that, I thought to myself...
You think that's why he fired Keith Lee?
Well, I mean, there's people like Otis on the main roster, though.
Otis's character used to be, I'm a fat guy. That used to be his character.
Well, Keith Lee's character was I'm a big fat guy, but I don't move like it. So you're saying that he allowed Otis because Otis acknowledged he was a fat guy and Keith Lee didn't, or...
I don't know. I mean, they fired Samoa Joe, because he was fat.
You just think that Vince just hates fat people?
I think Vince hates Samoa Joe. And that... Ugh.
I'm not going to say that he hates Samoa Joe or not, but Vince definitely has a body type that he likes, you know?
I mean, just the fact that... Don't get me wrong, I really like Mandy Rose. She's great. But the fact that we go from... Literally, in the scape of a year, from Raquel Gonzalez and Io Shirai being NXT Women's Champions, and Tommaso Ciampa and Samoa Joe being NXT Men's Champions, to Mandy Rose and Braun Breaker, who are the stereotypical prototype for what Vince McMahon likes.
You know, I just thought of it. It's funny that you bring up the whole body type thing because I just thought of something. Where's Dewdrop? We haven't seen her in 2 months, have we?
No.
Where the hell is Dewdrop, right? Maybe Vince really is like, you need to have this body type or you're not going to be on TV.
And I honestly think that Edge is on the verge of saving Rhea Ripley's career. She'd probably be on the cut list after Mania if he didn't step in.
Yeah,
because you and I both agree Rhea Ripley's a very, very attractive woman.
Yes.
Right. But Vince doesn't see that at all. Bruce Pritchard probably doesn't see that either. When she was in NXT, she was a fucking killer. Same with Shayna Baszler. You notice how they changed from the main roster, from NXT to the main roster. They come up and they're unrecognizable.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier. They're called up and they're given a new name and a new personality. So there's no point to building up a character in NXT in the first place.
So Shayna Baszler's whole thing was, "Oh, I'm the Queen of Spades." That was like her gimmick. She's just a badass that taps people out and chokes them out, and she's a bully. That's her gimmick. Yeah. And then she comes to the main roster, and she's literally shuffling a deck of cards every time she's in backstage promo because she's the Queen of Spades. That means she has to have a deck of cards in her hands.
Some good shit, man.
It's so stupid.
Some good shit, though.
I don't understand. I don't understand the point of having a developmental brand or any.
Well, here's the question, though, right?
Here's the question: will they actually make Cody Rhodes the biggest star in the company to attract all these people from AEW? Because the people that they're going to attract from AEW would be prototypical NXT 1.0 type people, like MJF, Wardlow. All of these people would have fit perfectly with Triple H's NXT, and if that's the whole reason that they brought Cody Rhodes back and they gave him a whole bunch of money, I think what they're going to do is they're going to push Cody to the moon. And then right as soon as they get MJF under contract or anybody else from AEW, they're going to bury Cody Rhodes on national television. Because that's what they would fucking do.
Well, the word bury is very misleading, I think. When you say the word bury, you imply that he's going to lose in a very embarrassing and nonsensical fashion, right? But
no, that's not what I mean by bury. What I mean by bury is they're going to kill all of his stock. So, what's a good example?
Cesaro?
Cesaro's a good example. I would even say Drew McIntyre to this extent. When Drew McIntyre was WWE champion, it was unquestioned he was the top guy in the company.
Yeah. Well, Roman at the time.
It was 1 and 1.
He beat Drew.
It was 1 and 1A.
Okay.
And then when they did that match, Roman had to cheat to beat Drew. So the power scaling there was pretty much equal.
Yeah.
They both had free reign. When they cut promos, they were genuine and they didn't sound scripted as shit. Both guys just didn't really care.
Yeah, what are they gonna do?
Then Drew loses the title, and now he's having a match with Happy Corbin at WrestleMania.
And now he's feuding with Sami Zayn.
The fact that Shinsuke Nakamura feels like a more credible threat to the Universal Championship to me than Drew McIntyre is 100% WWE's fault. They buried him. They buried Big E. As soon as he lost the title, he just didn't care about it anymore.
I honestly feel like Big E's WWE title run might be one of the worst title runs of all time.
It's not as bad as Rey Mysterio's and Kane's.
I didn't say the worst, I said one of, because nobody remembers it, nobody talks about it, it made absolutely no impact. He did not make the belt more prestigious at all, and this isn't his fault. I don't believe that that's Big E's fault. I believe that it's the booking's fault, right? The feuds were not made to be interesting, you know?
You see, I don't know how much... You hear this all the time. The championship doesn't make the man makes the championship.
I fundamentally believe that.
I fundamentally believe that, too. That's a big Triple H thing that he always used to say. But the thing is, first of all, the championship is given to you. You don't actually win it. It's a prop. Second of all, you are not in control of your own storytelling. Like, they book you.
Yeah. Well, it depends.
So when CM Punk was the champion for 439 whatever days, he wasn't in the main event. He wasn't the big guy on the show. He made the title feel prestigious because he didn't lose it. That's the only reason they made it feel prestigious. And, like, I'll argue this with a lot of people. Like, you want to say Punk's one of the greatest champions of all time. I can hear all of your points for that, but
I don't think that.
The fact that, I mean, he was the longest reigning of the modern era, but like his opponents were. But his opponents were shit.
That's a topic for another day. The best way that I could describe it, though, is like Punk to me never felt like a quote unquote champion. He felt like a superstar who had the championship, but he didn't care about the belt. He cared more about sending his message, feuding with the Authority, feuding with John. He didn't.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Me, I'm just saying. To me, I never really saw the belt, and I never saw him as yeah, that's my champion.
Well,
I saw him as that's CM Punk, but to me that was on the same level as championship. But I never saw the belt.
Here's what I think.
The belt was like
that.
an accessory to me.
Yeah, I think the belt's an accessory. It was a reason to have him on TV every week, which I fundamentally disagree with having the world champion wrestle every single week. I think that's stupid.
Okay.
Who feels like a bigger deal, Hangman or Kenny Omega?
Kenny
Omega. Why? Because Kenny Omega never wrestled on TV, except for like one-offs. Moxley never wrestled on TV. Roman literally never wrestles on TV.
He wrestled.
They had Big E wrestle on TV every single week.
He wrestled Montez Ford that one time.
Like except for like the maybe once a month or once every other month.
Yeah, Big E did wrestle all the time.
Punk wrestled every single week on TV. He cut very good promos, but he wasn't pushed as the top guy.
And maybe that's why
it didn't feel good, because he wasn't in the main event.
It's not that it didn't feel good. It's just like I said, I never saw him and immediately thought that's my champion. Like I look at Roman and I think that's the tribal chief. That's the champion. I look at CM Punk and I think that's CM Punk, and that's a good thing.
I think the other thing that had a factor in that was he had Cena's belt. When you look at that WWE Championship, what do you think of? You think of John Cena, because it's synonymous with him.
Honestly, I think of The Miz, because you just fucking turn it upside down and it's an M. I don't know. That's just me.
No, so like, I don't think anybody that like Triple H. When you think of Triple H with the world title, do you think of Triple H with that world title? Of course not.
I think of him with the big gold belt.
You think of him with the big gold belt or the classic vintage WWE Championship?
Yeah. When
you think of The Rock, because he held that belt. When you think of The Rock, do you think of him with that title? No. When Randy Orton, when you think of him, do you think of? I think of Randy Orton with both belts. That's the Randy Orton I think of.
Yeah.
So I think that hurt CM Punk a lot. Because when I really sit back and think about like CM Punk with a world championship, I think of CM Punk with a big gold belt too.
So the point that you're getting at with this though is what?
I don't know. I thought we were just talking about champions. No. So we're talking about guys getting buried.
Yeah.
I think Cody Rhodes is 100% going to get buried at some point in WWE. I don't trust them anymore at all with anything.
I've noticed that you shift your opinions a lot on wrestling very, very quickly, right? Because going into WrestleMania, we were very negative, and then during WrestleMania, you and me were very positive, and now you've snapped right back into the negative, right? Whereas I'm still trying to be optimistic.
I'm very hopeful for the future.
Yeah.
But I don't trust WWE at all to do it. What have we been saying forever? Like, there needs to be one men's champion, one women's champion, one tag team champion.
Yeah. And
they're seeming to go in that direction. The question is, I don't trust WWE to keep it that way.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that instead of getting a new championship, a new undisputed championship, Roman's just going to carry both belts, and then one way or another, someone's going to challenge him for the WWE title, and then he'll lose that by shenanigans, and then they'll have 2 world titles again.
I mean, you're probably right.
It's pathetic. But anyway, this is going to open up a different can of worms here. Do you think the current state of wrestling is good or bad right now?
Yes, I think it's good.
You think it's good?
Yes.
I would tend to agree.
For the simple fact that wrestlers actually have options, right? Wrestlers... Some wrestlers enjoy the WWE lifestyle. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Rey Mysterio, these are WWE lifers and they like it, right? Keith Lee, Samoa Joe, the people that you just listed, they obviously didn't like that lifestyle. Now, I'm not saying that WWE was right in firing them at all, but I'm simply saying that they no longer have to work for them, right? They actually have they have those options. People who enjoy a more realistic, dark underground feel of wrestling, they can go watch AEW. People who like WWE, whoever you are, right? I mean, I still like it on occasion. I'm wearing a WrestleMania 38 hoodie. I clearly like some of the stuff that they do. You can go watch that, right? Yeah, every show's going to have its ups and downs, right? I mean, no show can be fucking perfect for... How many episodes has Raw been on? 15,000?
A lot.
Yeah, whatever, however many episodes that it's been on, right? It's been around for a long time. Not every episode's going to be good. It's going to go through high points and low points, but I think that overall, the grand landscape of wrestling, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of news constantly happening. I think this is a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan and to be a wrestler, and I think that those pros greatly outweigh the fact that last week we had bad shows, right? I would obviously like a more consistently better show. But it's like you always told me, right? WWE's making more money than ever, right? And I told you I don't care. But
I agree. I agree with everything that you said when we had that was for what he's referencing is we actually recorded a rant similar to this, but it never got uploaded because the file got corrupted.
Yeah,
we talked a lot, and the basic premise was I believe that Vince McMahon was a genius because the company's more profitable now than ever, and he was like, I don't care, the show still sucks. I agree with you. I'm not gonna back off of my point that Vince McMahon is a genius because I do think he is, but I agree more with you than I did with myself in that. But
that whole rant was very hit or miss to me, right? But the one point that I would like to keep from that and put on this episode is you made the point that like, oh well, not everything that happens is Vince's fault, right? And I told you that's bullshit, right? Let's say that you're a fucking...
He's the one that signs off on it.
Yeah, let's say that you're a squad leader in the army, right? If you're in formation and the soldiers under you are fucked up and not in regs, who's going to get yelled at? It's going to be you because you're their soldiers, right? If the show sucks, then who are they going to yell at? The fucking guy who's getting paid $10,000 just to show up and take a bump? Or the millionaire who signs off on everything and is the final say, right? Vince needs to be held responsible for it, right?
I think the current state of wrestling is 50-50. Here's why. I don't know if you've heard me make this comparison before or not, but there's a common argument that there's a difference between professional wrestling and sports entertainment.
Yes, and there is, I think.
I don't know. I feel like sports entertainment to me is the Johnny Knoxville match.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to say that.
But it's also the Texas Death Match, and you know, anything that's outside the realm of like just regular like a pro wrestling match. I feel like that's sports entertainment. Like when you got guys jumping off of cages.
For me,
that's sports entertainment.
For me, the distinction's very clear. Anything that breaks the realm of believability is when it becomes sports entertainment, right? So Hell in a Cell, right? Yeah, it's extreme, but like the idea of a guy being thrown up over a ring and hitting a steel grate, right? Like or a steel wall, whatever the hell you want to call it, chain link fence, right? Like yeah, it's extreme, but that's believable, right? If you're in a fight in there, you do that, right? No DQ match. People are hitting each other with chairs and throwing them through tables. It's extreme, but they would do that, right? The moment that I see a fucking man-sized mousetrap come out, I'm like, okay, this isn't realistic anymore. This is sports entertainment, right? Yeah. The moment that I see... Nothing against this match, but the moment that I see Mick Foley get thrown off the fucking Hell in a Cell and through a fucking table... and then get chokeslammed onto thumbtacks, that's when it becomes sports entertainment for me.
You know the crazy thing is like that was all 100% real.
I know. Mick Foley's tooth, if you look really closely, you can see
his tooth goes through his lip and into his nose.
Exactly. Yeah. That's when it's no longer believable and it's sports entertainment. Now, wrestling in and of itself, right? It's the whole selling point is that it's not real, but you make it believable. So the moment that it's not believable is when it I'm not going to say degrades or ascends. I'll say transitions. That's when it becomes sports entertainment.
So it's like every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. This is the comparison I'm about to make. Okay, obviously WWE puts on professional wrestling. They are all professional wrestlers. Mm-hmm. The difference between AEW, TNA, New Japan, and WWE. This is the same way it was with the NWA and WWF back in the day as well. Ric Flair said it. Is AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, they're all the Boston Celtics, and WWE is the Harlem Globetrotters. Yes, they're playing basketball, But one is a sport that they are actively trying to win. They have win-loss records. It's presented as a sport. The other one is a family affair that you bring the kids to see the guy do the crazy thing where he gets on stilts and dunks a basketball.
It's funny that you make that comparison, though, because which show has been doing the most ridiculous stunts recently? You and me were
AEW does the most ridiculous stunts.
You and me were very mad at the Jeff Hardy match that they keep putting him through those stunts. So at the end of the day, which one's more sports entertainment then? See, now I got you stumped.
Which one's more sports entertainment? I'd still say WWE.
No, it was a trick question. It is, right? Yeah. I'm just saying, like people like to say, oh, AEW is the real professional wrestling. It's not sports entertainment. And I'm like,
no, they do sports entertainment.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry. Did you watch that? Did you watch that ladder match at Revolution? That was sports entertainment, man. Did you watch the fucking like? Have you watched any Young Bucks match where it's nothing but spots? Right? Love the Young Bucks, but they do a lot of spots. You know, like AEW is sports entertainment too. Sometimes it's not. I love AEW, but it is not this. It's
not the promised land.
It is not this messiah of wrestling that's going to save everybody and fix everything. No, it's going to have flaws too.
I would say most indie wrestling federations are sports entertainment.
Yeah.
When you got guys like Colt Cabana doing
the human tornado that I sent to you a while back.
That's sports entertainment. The second you take any believability out of it, it's no longer professional wrestling to me.
Yeah, so that's what I say. Yeah, that's the distinction. When I no longer believe that I'm watching a real competition, that's when it's sports entertainment.
That's why I really like that comparison between the NBA and the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
I used to say one was low rent like the Baltimore Orioles, the other one was the New York Yankees. No, it's not even a comparison. It's definitely the NBA and the Harlem Globetrotters because one is a sporting event. There's a championship. They actually treat their championships like it's a thing. The other one is just, it's a circus. It's a family circus. Yeah. The question that I want to ask you, and this is something that people can debate forever. If you're going with the history books and you ask the question, who is the greatest WWE champion of all time? Most people would either say Hulk Hogan or Steve Austin or John Cena.
Okay. And you're going to ask me that?
All of which were very, very, very big sports entertainment guys. The Attitude Era was when Vince shifted from pro wrestling to sports entertainment. He basically cut a promo and told all of viewership, this isn't real, this is scripted entertainment. We're not pro wrestlers, we're sports entertainers, we're superstars. If I was asked the question, who is the greatest WWE champion of all time, without even thinking for a second, the answer is Bret Hart. And here's why.
I'm still wearing the shirt.
He actually thought he was the champion. He was handed the belt. He didn't win the belt. He was given the belt. Right? Because that's how pro wrestling works. You don't actually win the belt. They give it to you. They choose you. But he thought he was the champion. He carried himself as the champion. And WWE at the time was not a sports entertainment bullshit. We're going to have fucking Stone Cold coming out with a cement truck and pouring concrete in Vince's Corvette type shit. It was like you won and lost the belt in the ring, and he carried himself like a champion.
Yeah.
I would say the Attitude Era is the single greatest and worst thing that ever happened to pro wrestling because it got a whole bunch of viewership in. It made wrestling the most popular entertainment media in the country. But it also diluted the product to a point where people will watch a match like Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. Or that's not even a good one. They'll watch a match like Roman Reigns versus Edge. And they'll say, oh, this is boring, this sucks.
You're talking about Money in the Bank, right?
Yeah, there's like, oh, this is boring, this sucks. They're not hitting each other with chairs, and nobody's drinking beer. Like, I constantly talk about how the modern wrestling fan is tricked into thinking what they like is pro wrestling, and what they think, like the Young Bucks match, is good. But honestly, the person to blame should be Vince McMahon for, in the 90s, changing the entire landscape of the industry to being sports entertainment.
I'm going to say something here on record. I don't think sports entertainment's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing either.
I don't understand I don't understand. No. I don't understand the AEW stands bitter hatred for the idea of sports.
No, well, we can talk about that in a minute. But so here's why I say that. All of the guys who are wrestling now that are like hardcore, like, oh, we're gonna beat ourselves up. We're diehard fans of the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, Steve Austin, Mick Foley, because those were the popular guys when they were growing up. Yeah. How many times have you seen Sammy Guevara throw himself off of something really high? Darby Allin, the Young Bucks, anybody like.
Yeah, you're right. You remember
and it. That now passes as that's a 8.75 star match because they did this many flips.
It's funny.
What happened to the days of Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect where it was actually they were fighting for a championship.
It's funny that you bring up that comparison because you and I both own Jon Moxley's book, and you remember there's a passage in there where Jon Moxley does a fake feud promo against Mick Foley, where he calls him out in public and he says, "Hey there, asshole! You're the reason why a generation of wrestlers have permanently hurt themselves. It's because you set the precedent that you have to hurt yourself to be a superstar." Yeah. And it was all fake, right? It was all just for them to feud back and forth, you know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of true, right?
Isn't that way?
Modern wrestlers nowadays grow up idolizing people like the Hardy Boys, like you said, and they think, oh, I have to swanton off a ladder through a table into a flaming pit of thumbtacks.
Yeah, and you know what the sad thing is, I would say Matt Hardy is the more creative, the more entertaining Hardy Boy.
Yeah.
Because he changes his gimmick all the time, and wherever he's gone, he's made himself a mainstay of that company. Not necessarily the main event guy.
No,
no matter where Jeff Hardy goes, he has to jump off a ladder. And that includes AEW. And I think one of the reasons why he didn't want to be in WWE anymore is because they wouldn't let him jump off of ladders anymore because that's how you get hurt.
Goes back to what you and me were talking about, where it's like I don't think that we didn't say this on.
We didn't say this on the podcast.
Yeah,
but like
you and me asked each other which company truly values their employees more.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah. So we started off saying a lot of negative things about WWE, right? But
I made the point. I don't think Tony Khan. Seems like a really standout guy. Really loves professional wrestling. He's a huge fan. But at the same time,
I won't say he's a standout guy, but he likes wrestling that much.
No, he seems like a genuinely positive, stand-up guy.
Positive, we'll go with that. I don't know.
He seems like the type of person I would totally be down to work for. He seems like a great boss.
Yeah.
But I don't think he puts the health of his wrestlers first, and here's why. So Daniel Bryan, when he was wrestling in WWE. People would claim from seeing his match with Omega and Page and Moxley compared to his last year in WWE that they were basically making him wrestle with one hand tied behind his back. And there was a reason for that. He had to retire because he had so many freaking concussions that if he got one more, he'd probably be paralyzed for the rest of his life or die.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't let him go ham with a lot of his moves. What's the first thing he does when he goes to AEW? He wrestles a 5-star match. Good for him. It was the first one in his entire career. I don't think that's fair to him because Dave Meltzer is very, very outspoken that he doesn't like WWE, but that's a debate from a different day. All of his matches since he's come to AEW have been good, but they're really high risk, hard hitting matches that. You remember the Brock Lesnar match, him versus Brock Lesnar, how it was hard to watch because he kept on getting suplexed onto his head and neck.
Yeah.
That's the general vibe I get from Bryan Danielson in AEW. He's wrestling full force because he's unhinged and he doesn't have his hands tied behind his back anymore. And it's a cool character arc for him.
And I can't speak for you, but at least I'll speak for me, right? I'm not... Because I do agree with you, right? I don't think that he should be doing that, right? This isn't to say that AEW is... Because Daniel Bryan's a grown man, or Bryan Danielson is a grown ass man.
Oh yeah,
right?
He can do whatever he wants.
If he wants to go to AEW and do that, then by all means he can do that, right? If behind the scenes Jeff Hardy is the one going out of his way to say, hey, I want to do these ladder spots, I don't think he should be doing it, but whatever. More power to him, right? I'm simply saying that that's the vibe that I get watching the shows.
I don't understand why he needs to be the guy on the show to do it, because they have a guy that's named Darby Allin that will do that stuff, and he probably won't get hurt.
Yeah, because he weighs like 80 pounds.
He weighs like 80 pounds, and he's pretty much a stuntman at this point. So I don't know why Jeff Hardy needs... it's the fans.
Yeah.
Because in the fans' eyes, Jeff Hardy's not a good wrestler. He's just the guy that jumps off of a ladder, and we like him for that. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think Jeff Hardy is one of the greatest in-ring workers ever.
I think that he's arguably the greatest babyface of all time. Him or Daniel Bryan. I'd say either of those two.
Ricky Steamboat is another one.
Yeah.
And then the other comparison was Samoa Joe. He actually got fired twice from WWE because the first time he was injured and he couldn't work, so they put him on commentary. And then the second time he got cleared, came back, and got injured again, so they fired him again. He's very injury prone at this point in his career. And WWE banned the Muscle Buster as a finishing move because it ended Tyson Kidd's career. It's a dangerous move to do if it's not done properly.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that Samoa Joe does? Comes to AEW, he's jumping out of ring, he's doing all these high risk moves, and then ends the match with a Muscle Buster. And the fans are all like, "Oh, this is awesome! Fuck WWE! They're not."
Yeah, honestly, the amount of... I'm pretty sure that every episode of Dynamite that I've ever watched, the fans have always broken out into an AEW, and it's like...
I don't think I've ever seen an episode of AEW Dynamite or AEW Rampage where there hasn't been some sort of hint, wink, wink, and, oh, we're better than WWE.
Yeah.
And some sort of promo.
Yeah,
That's the nice part about Cody Rhodes coming to WWE from AEW. He has not said one thing about where he used to be, and it's better that way.
And again, much like with the safety of the wrestlers, I'm not going to say that it is a way or that it isn't a way. I'm simply saying that the vibe that I get from the crowd and the vibe that I get from there is like it's very much just it's very petty. It's very petty, right? The whole AEW, yeah, man, we're fucking better than you, and it's like I'm sorry, like don't you just want better wrestling? Like.
Yeah, no.
God forbid AEW becomes the only major promotion in the world, and then they become the new current WWE. I fucking hope that we never get a single wrestling company ever again.
I'm really worried about Sammy Guevara.
Sammy's in a really bad spot right now. The fans fucking hate him. Like,
well, so here's
unironically.
My opinion on that is they need to turn him and Ty Conti heel, and basically make them the new Edge and Lita.
Okay.
Because that'll make them next level in this industry. It'll catapult AEW as a brand to the next level. You have no idea. You just gotta go back and watch like 2000, 2005, 2006, 2007 Monday Night Raw with Edge and Lita, and it was just next level type shit. Like live sex celebration in the ring. Like people hated him and her. But I'm worried about Sammy Guevara's health.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy, to me, that doesn't understand what professional wrestling is. That match with Cody Rhodes.
The ladder match.
Was it a physical match? Yes. Was it an athletic contest? Yes. Did it look cool? Yes.
I hate everything.
Were both guys trying to win? Absolutely not. Maybe Cody was trying to win at one point in the match, and then he just kind of threw it all out the window.
The amount of times in that match where Cody like moves the ladder and then goes back to fighting Sammy and then moves the ladder and then goes, and it's not like Sammy's getting up and he has to push him down, right? It's just him going out of his way to like kick Sammy when he's down and then put the ladder up, and not like he's a heel. It just the whole match. I did not once get the vibe from either wrestler that these are two wrestlers trying to win the match. It was a fucking stunt show. Just like, what's his name? Who's the talk show guy again?
The talk show guy?
Fucking, what's his name? I don't know. I'll look it up. You keep going.
Oh, Jim Cornette?
Yeah, just like Jim Cornette said, me and him both sided that like it was a stunt show. The entire fucking thing. I couldn't stand that match.
I think... if you look at most of the reviews online about that match, people have deemed it like the greatest one-on-one match, ladder match since Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon
People.
I'm like, well, those people are wrong because they clearly haven't seen Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe.
Yeah, those people clearly watch Michael Bay movies because they like the big explosions and that was so cool. It's
not Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens.
Yeah. Those people must love Michael Bay movies where they see the big explosion and then the robot does a really cool flip and then wow, it's so cool, and it's like, yeah, I guess. But...
Yeah, I just there were so many points in that match where Sammy Guevara goes up to the top of the ladder, or he has a clear chance to win the match, and then he looks into the camera and does the I'm crazy thing, and then jumps off the ladder. Yeah. And he's done that so many times since being on television. I don't know if he just doesn't understand what the point of a wrestling match is.
Sammy Guevara has no ring psychology. No.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Again, right? I won't make any definitive.
To me, Sammy Guevara is just not a believable champion. Like when he was the TNT champion, like the only good match that he had as TNT champion was with Jay Lethal. That was it.
I liked his match against Scorpio Sky because Scorpio Sky
fucking won.
Is awesome, and he fucking beat him.
No, he just beat the shit out of him because that's the whole point of a wrestling match.
And Scorpio Sky gives me major Bret Hart vibes. He gives me major I am a fucking expert and I can outmaneuver you and I'm gonna destroy you in this match vibes.
Yeah, I love Scorpio Sky. Yeah. Jay Lethal the same way. Yeah. But the point that I'm trying to get at is, when this type of stunt work became popular, it was with the Attitude Era, and all of the young wrestlers that are getting into wrestling now grew up idolizing guys like Jeff Hardy and Mick Foley and the like. And I honestly think it's killing wrestling because, like I said, most people would look at that Sammy Guevara Cody Rhodes match and say it's like the greatest match they've ever seen. And don't get me wrong, Spotfest has its place in wrestling. Definitely does. I don't think that getting rid of all of the Spotfest matches would make AEW a better show. I love the thing that I love the most about AEW is its variety. You could see anything from an Iron Man technical masterpiece to a street fight with blood gushing everywhere to a ladder match to a Spotfest match. You could see everything. And I like that the most about AEW. But I think that might be the biggest difference between the AEW fans and the WWE fans.
WWE expects you to conform to their style, whereas AEW is kind of
the
like...
The WWE style is soft.
And AEW is this melting pot of like, oh, what's that? You do strong style? Come on in. Oh, what's that? You're a big dude who wants to do flips. You're a stunt man. You guys, come on in.
I think it's better like that because to me, AEW and WWE, yes, by proxy they're a competition, but it is truly an alternative to WWE. WWE is the show for everyone. It is the family show. It is the Harlem Globetrotters. You bring your family to a WWE show, you have a great time. Do you? They have the big... Well, I feel like being there live would be fun because you just get to heckle everybody and be...
Those fans don't look like they're having fun.
Oh, I would have so much fun at a live event.
We would because we're actual wrestling fans. We're not a fucking mom. We're not a mom and her fucking kid and the stepdad or whatever.
Oh, we're going to talk about wrestling fans in about 5 minutes here. But... WWE is the sports entertainment family show that you bring your kids to and they have a good time, and AEW is fully for wrestling fans. Like they don't want casual fans. And honestly, if I was gonna try and show someone what professional wrestling is, this is the crazy part. If I was gonna take someone who hates pro wrestling and try and get them into pro wrestling, I wouldn't show them AEW. I would show them some WWE matches. I would honestly show them WWE matches instead of AEW matches because I feel like they wouldn't understand all of the excess bleeding and throwing yourself off of shit.
I mean, I'm a hardcore fan, and even I don't like that stuff. So, let alone a new person to the sport. Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't agree with Vince and say it's just nothing but blood and guts.
No,
it's not.
No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but those types of matches they wouldn't like.
Yeah, but anyway, before we wrap things up, we had a very interesting conversation about a week ago where you said, "I don't think we're wrestling fans. We just love wrestling." And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And you said, well, wrestling fans are just the worst people on the planet.
That is what. There's no way that I said that. There was no way that I said that.
But he didn't say that. But
I was gonna say.
I think that was a very valid point, but that you kind of made there.
That we're not wrestling fans.
That we're not wrestling fans. We just love wrestling.
Yeah.
If you take into account the average wrestling fan, I feel like they're loyal to a promotion, and that's specifically because back in the Monday Night Wars, you had WWF guys and WCW guys.
For example, right? There's a Yankees fan. He likes the team. He likes watching them compete. And then there's a person who loves baseball. Loves everything about baseball, and he'll watch any team because he loves that sport. That's what I was implying when I said that you and me just love wrestling. We like
that is one of the most intelligent things I think I've ever heard you say.
Comparing it to the Yankees.
I've never heard it, because I legitimately thought that you were like, oh, we just love wrestling. I'm like, I don't understand what you mean. Like,
yeah. That's the best way that I could describe it. There's people.
Someone who loves the sport, and then someone who loves their team.
Yeah.
I would say I prefer AEW right now to WWE, but I still watch everything that WWE puts out.
Just because you love the sport.
Because I love the sport of professional wrestling. And honestly, because we're both looking to get into pro wrestling, it doesn't hurt to watch things that suck and see like, well, okay, well, I'm never going to do that.
Well, even if it does suck though, like it's not like I'm going out of my way to tell myself mentally, all right, this is going to suck, but watch it anyways to know not how to do it. I still watch it anyways, just because I love it.
Yeah,
I love seeing it. Even if it sucks, I love the act of it so much that I would like to watch it still.
See, the critic in me is really hard. It's really hard for me to watch Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown and AEW just for pure enjoyment. Okay. It's really hard for me to do that because I'm always looking as like, okay, well, what's this guy doing that's different than what this company is doing? And for the longest time, NXT was like, that was the show that I watched for fun. Even 2.0.
Well, here's the thing, right? People will say, oh, you don't really love it because you're always negative, right? I think that the fact that you can find so many negatives in it and still choose to stick around because you want it to get better just shows how much that you do love it. As opposed to, oh, this is boring, click, change the channel, right?
All right, so what are some of the worst things you've ever heard wrestling fans ever say?
Whatever the hell they were saying during Bianca Belair's promo last week, they were just heckling her and they were very rude to her the entire damn time. Even JD commented on that. If you watch his episode, JD made the comment, this episode of Raw was not good and the fans did not help at all because they were booing and they were heckling the entire damn thing and they were acting like children. Right?
If you don't know who JD is, we're both huge fans of JD from NY206, his podcast. It is the #1 wrestling podcast on YouTube. Just go.
And this isn't a soul wrestling podcast.
Yeah, he's a very outspoken.
Yeah,
diehard wrestling fan, and we agree with 98% of what he says. Sometimes more.
I'd say like 90% for me. But yeah.
Yeah, he's very entertaining to watch because he's very loud and he goes like, I wouldn't even describe what I went on today as a rant compared to what he does.
Oh no, he's very colorful.
Yeah,
but yeah, he made that comment and like I said, I don't know exactly what they were saying because it was a lot, but just. I don't know.
I think the worst things I could think of now. We talked earlier about Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti. So Sammy Guevara actually proposed to his ex on an episode of Dynamite.
Ooh.
And it came out that they broke up. And the fans just went out of their way to like heckle Ty Conti about it. This is before they even came out that they were dating. And it got to the point where like she was being cyberbullied so bad she like deleted her Twitter.
Yeah.
I think that's just terrible.
You asked me the question, what are some of the worst things that I've ever heard fans say to wrestlers? And my answer to that is that I can't answer that because the worst things that are ever said to wrestlers are not said to wrestlers. They are said to people who are wrestlers, right? Because when you're out there in the ring, you're a different person. You are a wrestler. So anything that they say to you there, whatever, you're putting on a performance, right? I might not agree with what you're saying, like the heckling, like I said, but I'm putting on a character. But it's when the fans go out of their way to harass them on their off time where it's like, you know that like, you know that Cody Rhodes is a person, right? Like, you know that maybe he just wanted to work for WWE, right? He's a person. Like, why are you going out of your way to call him a fucking traitor on Twitter? Yeah. Why are you going out of your way to call the girl that you were talking about a fucking whore or whatever? I don't know what they said, but I'm assuming they said that.
Yeah.
The worst things that I've heard wrestling fans say are what they don't say, because I don't know, right? What they say to the wrestlers in their off time when they think, oh, you're a wrestler all the time. You live to entertain me. It's like, no, it's a job for them, right? They love doing it, but it's a job, man. You gotta understand they're playing a character. You wouldn't go out of your way to fucking harass a villain in a live theater play after the show's over because he was a villain. It's like, yeah, no shit, he's playing a villain, dude. Like, what do you want from him? Yeah,
I think wrestling fans are the best fan base in the world and also the worst fan base in the world.
Yes, I would 100%
the best because it doesn't matter what the quality of a match is. If the fans are into it, it automatically makes it a good match.
Yes.
The Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, prime example of that. People remember that as one of the greatest matches of all time. Hulk Hogan cannot wrestle. He is a garbage human being and a garbage wrestler. He sucks. The fans fucking loved him in that match.
No comment. Not my opinion.
He's trash.
Topic for a different day.
He's racist and anyway.
I haven't done my research. That's why I'm saying I'm not going to say anything.
Anyway, having to sit and watch the pandemic era of SmackDown and Raw where there was no fans. Yeah. That sucked. A lot of people stopped watching. And then we get to the point where it's live and it's Monday Night Raw and the fans aren't into it. I'd almost rather watch the Thunderdome.
Yeah, I'd much rather have piped in crowd noise.
See, I wouldn't rather have piped in crowd noise. I would rather have all the fans on their feet heckling the shit and hijacking the show.
But it goes back to what we were talking about, right? WWE is the family-friendly show, right? AEW is the hardcore fan show, so it's very rare that the WWE fans get that way.
See, here's the thing.
The only reason why they got that way for the Raw after Mania is because Dallas had 5 nights of wrestling in a row. Only hardcore fans were going to be at.
See, the toxic wrestling fan in me comes out from time to time. There's a guy at work, and he watched WrestleMania, and he was like, I'm like, what do you think of WrestleMania? And he's like, it was all right. It was pretty good. He's like, the Johnny Knoxville match was awesome. He's like, I don't know why everybody's freaking out about Cody Rhodes. Like, I'm like, I my jaw dropped.
Who the fuck is Cody Rhodes? And you're like, I'm sorry.
He's like, well, like, so what? He's been gone for whatever. He sucked when he was here the last time. I'm like, oh, you've never seen AEW, have you? What's AEW? I didn't think there were people that
really
watched wrestling. That? Yeah, it was I won't say his name, but and then he said, yeah, the main event was pretty good. I wanted Brock to win though. I thought that was kind of bullshit. And the fact that there are actually people like the majority of wrestling fans that go to the shows are the hardcore ones, like the WrestleManias.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were cheering for Brock Lesnar because that's what the WWE wanted us to do. It makes it more fun if everybody's cheering for Lesnar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like none of them actually wanted Brock to win.
Yeah,
the
like
match.
When Roman holds up the belt and they're going like, "Yeah, I'm better than you," right? Like you fucking boo him because he's supposed to be booed, right? Yeah. But you love Roman.
Roman is he's not a true heel.
No, everybody loves him.
Everybody loves him. He's unanimously
Only
loved.
time I think that he was ever a true heel was after the Seth Rollins match. He got legit heat after that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fans were fucking hot for Rollins to win that match.
I don't know why, but yeah.
Because the match story was good, but I talked about that in the Revolution video. It's one of my favorite matches of all time for that reason. Mm-hmm. They turned a nothing match into a we want Rollins to win just because the performance and the story and in the ring was so good. Anyways, yeah, the fans.
Yeah, I just every time I hear someone say, like, I guess you would call us the smarks, the smart marks.
Smart marks.
Yeah, what
does that mean?
So marks we mark out for certain wrestlers, but we're smart because we know the backstage terms and we think we know what the booking is.
I don't think I'm smart at all. I think that I'm a fucking nerd who goes out of my way to read a lot about it.
If Miz or MJF or Jericho, any of these people, like whatever listen to this podcast, they would say, "Oh, you're a bunch of smarks. You're insignificant."
I mean, true.
Like he's 100% true about that. That was the greatest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Roman Reigns called, like, he just roasted some random dude on Twitter. He's like, someone said something about, I think it's time for Roman to lose the title. I don't know why he's why he's marketed as such a big deal. The guy sucks. He's not even that good. And Roman just tweets back, he's like, "Shut your mouth, you insignificant mark." And I'm like, "Oh my god, what a legend!"
It's all that he needs to say is like, "What's that? I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm sorry, but like I
can't hear you. My 2 belts are.
I'm having a hard time hearing you through this mountain of money that I have stacked up in between us. It's yeah, I can't hear you through it. Yeah.
Well, anyway, like
No, I don't think that I know better than anybody just because I just
the fact that I hear people say like, "Oh no, yeah, no, Roman needs to lose the title," or Becky needs to win, stupid shit like that. It actually pisses me off.
Like the fans think like
when people actually think that Brock Lesnar is going to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Like you are on drugs.
You do what I want. You don't do what you want wrestling. You give me what I want as the fan. And it's like there's a time and place for that. One of my videos that I'm working on is going to be giving the fans what they want versus not. Like there's a time.
That's going to be something we're going to debate on this show as well.
Yeah.
At some point, but I wanted to talk about that with you for a long time.
Giving what they want versus what they don't. Yeah, we can do a whole.
We'll do a whole episode on that, but.
Speaking of which, we have just crossed the 1 hour mark a little bit.
All right, well...
You want to call it there?
We'll call it here. Monday Night Raw just started, so...
That's right, it just started.
I can't wait to see Cody Rhodes wrestle The Miz.
Is that happening?
That is happening tonight.
Oh, boy.
All of you hardcore wrestling fans out there that watch this show...
All four of you.
All four, or one of you. That one being me. Because I love The Miz... And I don't care what anybody says about it. I think The Miz is one of the greatest fucking WWE champions of all time.
The Miz is one of the few wrestlers who truly brings that sense of like raw passion to the role, where you're like every word out of his mouth when he's into it, I believe this guy. Like I told you, right?
He's like Eddie Kingston.
One of my favorite Miz promos, and it seems I don't know why it got forgotten. Right? I really thought that they were going to do something with it. Is the night. I think it was the night after TLC, after The Miz failed to cash... Yeah, the night after TLC, after The Miz failed to cash in Money in the Bank on Drew. And AJ came out to talk to him, and he said Miz... And Miz was just lecturing him for like 5 minutes straight. Like, he was just scolding him, how could you mess up that match? And then Miz just snaps back with... Yeah, I know. What do you think, that I haven't been up the last 5 days kicking myself in the ass because I failed? And then he tells him, AJ, do you want to hear me say it? I failed. I fucking failed. And then he goes on this long tirade, just apologizing, admitting that he failed, and admitting that he knows that he fucked up and that he can never take it back. And he just puts so much raw emotion and passion into it. I was like, damn, like they're really gonna build a storyline about this, right? About the Miz wanting to redeem himself. And no, they never built up.
No, of course they didn't.
But for those 5 minutes,
and of course they made him champion for 1 week just so Bobby.
2 weeks, but those 2 weeks he made that belt mean more than the Universal title.
I don't know if I would say that, but...
Topic for another day, because it's another video of mine.
He actually made the belt seem prestigious. And I love Drew McIntyre. Polana just uploaded a video.
I saw that. I haven't seen it yet.
He makes a very good point.
Well, I'll have to watch it before we get into this. But.
Yeah, he basically summarizes it as like, Drew McIntyre used to be like this, such a big deal, and then after he lost the belt, he just fell off, and now it's to a point where like, he's not a legitimate challenger for Roman anymore.
No.
And they need to build him back up to the point where he is. Yeah. But...
Anyways, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Human Paradox Podcast. What episode? This is episode 9, I believe? It's either 8 or 9. I'm not sure which one it is, but...
This was just a rant episode that we'll probably do from time to time on.
Yeah, like I said,
on whatever topic.
This is just how we. Yeah, you just wanted to talk about how you were feeling about wrestling. I'm pretty sure that like over half our episodes are on wrestling at this point.
That's fine. We can do a rant movie if the next Marvel movie just sucks ass.
Which will be what?
Doctor Strange.
Oh, that's right.
I think Doctor Strange is going to be really good, but.
A lot of people thought Morbius was going to be good.
Yeah, no, I didn't see Morbius.
I've heard
I kind of want to see it now just because of how bad it is.
The only positive that I have heard from that movie is that it ended. That is the only positive. I asked a person, what did you like about it? And he said, I liked it when the screen cut to black and then all of the pretty white text started scrolling. That was funny. That's what he said. Anyways, getting off topic. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, then be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to catch our next episode. hit the bell icon to stay notified when we upload. We try to upload at least once every 2 weeks, but sometimes more than that. It's pretty much whenever we feel like it. I'm not going to say what we're going to be talking about next time, because it just kind of pops up. So if you like hearing us talk about random shit, and stay tuned for next.
That's more or less what this podcast is turning into anyway, so.
Whatever.
Listen to us talk about random shit.
With that being said, we will catch you guys in the next episode.
See ya.